might try fire for a change. Give my regards to Frost.
Welcome once again, my fellow manipulators of digital fate. I'm Richie, this is Capricorn. If things look a little different than normal, that's because I just got done moving into the new apartment, and the gameplay from today's deck was captured before the move, so that will look the same. But the deck tech breakdown and the intro here are happening from the new apartment. This is technically the first deck tech from the new apartment, and I'm exhausted. It's taken me all week to move in, to get everything set up. I'm still not completely set up. As you see behind me, there's a ton of boxes and stuff that still needs to be unpacked and set up and all that good stuff. But I wanted to get back to cranking out deck techs as soon as possible. This first one here, back at it, we've been, what, like a week without deck techs because of the move. This first one is the deck that I think was probably the best deck I made last season before Ixalan dropped, and it's even better now, and I want to hurry up and get this out there so that you guys can just see how crazy it is. But before we talk about the deck, make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, all that good stuff. I want to give a huge shout out to my patrons over at patreon.com/quarantinecapricorn. That's Yuckfuzi, Noah Vincent, Squirrel, Brittany at the Brew Crew Elite tier, and then of course our forever CPU savior Terrence Rohrbach. This deck is called DAYBLAZER, and this is an upgrade to Daywalker, our Mardu Vampires deck list from last season, and it is just insanely better now. We get Bartolomé, we get Cavern of Souls, and most of the deck is the same, but those cards just add so much, and there's some insight into why they work so well that I can't wait to share with you guys. So, like I said before, make sure you like, make sure you subscribe. The algorithm hates me right now because I went a week without uploads, so I really have to kind of make up for that, and so the more likes, the more comments and that kind of stuff I get on this video, the quicker the algorithm will get me back to where I need to be for the channel as far as being prioritized and put into new people's feeds to bring in new traffic. So I'm kind of swimming upstream here, paddling upstream, trying to get back in the good graces of the algorithm after not putting up anything for a week. So every little thing you can possibly do will help, whether it's watching a video a second time or clicking the like button or whatever, bringing a friend over and having them subscribe. Whatever you can do to help me just get back to where I was and get things popping off again, I would greatly appreciate it. This deck is awesome. So many more decks that are super awesome are on the way. I'm excited to share it with you, so let's break it down. Alright, so the gameplay was recorded at my old place before the move, but I am doing this deck tech breakdown from my new apartment. I'm a little scatterbrained right now. The move-in has been kind of crazy, but I'm going to try and break this down for you guys. It's mostly the same as the deck was before Ixalan, but there are a couple of notable improvements that just make the deck strictly better than it's ever been, and I think it's probably the best aggro deck in the format, to be completely honest. But we're going to start at the bottom of the curve. We'll talk about the new cards at the end. We've got 4 Cutthroat Contender, 1 mana Vampire. We can pay a life to buff it, +1 attack. Ichor Drinker, another 1 mana Vampire, has lifelink. We can also pay 1 mana and exile it from the graveyard to incubate 2, which adds resiliency to the deck. We've got 2 Falkenrath Pit Fighters, only 2, and there's a reason for that. I'll get to that a little bit later. But this is a 2/1 for 1. It is a Vampire, and it gives us the ability to pay 2, discard a card, sack a Vampire to draw 2 cards. But you can only activate it if your opponent lost life this turn. And then we've got 4 Voldaren Epicure, 1/1 Vampire for 1, comes down, deals the damage immediately, also gives you a blood token. Now, the reason we want so many 1-drops is mostly, there's a couple of different reasons, but mostly it's for Markov Baron. The wider we can go and the quicker we can go that wide, the quicker we can get Markov Baron, and then the more creatures we have on the field to take advantage of the Markov Baron. For example, we can go turn 1, 1-drop Vampire, turn 2 2 1-drop vampires, and then tap all 3 vampires to convoke out the Markov Baron on turn 2. That gives us 4 bodies and a total of 10 plus power on the field on turn 2, which is just kind of insane. In addition, this thing has lifelink, so it helps us win the race against other aggro decks like Mono Red. And it has Madness, so we can always, in the middle of combat, do a combat trick where we crack a blood token to discard the Markov Baron and draw a card, and then we get to pay the Madness cost, and we can pay that Madness cost while also convoking it. So we can actually do that with no mana at all, and still get the Baron out onto the field by tapping all of our creatures. It's really good if we end up in a position where we need to block, because we can block with our creatures and then tap them to convoke it out mid-combat after discarding the Baron to a blood token. So there's just synergies on top of synergies layered here. But mostly we want as many vampires on the field as possible to get buffed up by this guy, and also to help pay for this guy so he can come down that much sooner and just make you that much more aggressive than the other aggro decks that are out there. Our 2 drops, we've got Vampire Socialite. Now this is kind of our Lord 5 through 8. And it's sort of an anthem for all of our vampires, but it works a little bit differently. But you can still sort of think about it as an anthem. It's a 2/2 menace vampire for 2, right? And when it enters the battlefield, if an opponent lost life this turn, you put a +1/+1 counter on each other vampire you control. And as long as an opponent lost life this turn, each other vampire you control enters the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter on it. So there's hoops to jump through. You have to deal damage before you play your vampires. You have to deal damage if you want to put counters on the stuff that's already down. You have to deal damage with those creatures before you play the Socialite itself. But if you jump through those hoops, it's basically an anthem, except kind of better than an anthem because it's in the form of +1/+1 counters. So if the Socialite itself dies, you still have that anthem effect piled up on all of the creatures that you've already had in play. So you don't lose the anthem effect when you lose the Socialite, which is the upside. The downside is you have more hoops to jump through in order to get that anthem to actually apply itself to your creatures. You have to make sure you're dealing damage, and you have to make sure you're dealing damage in the right order before you're playing your guys, or before you play the Socialite itself the turn it comes down. But we can do a lot of cool things like play a 1-drop vampire on 1, swing with it on 2, and then jam the Socialite and put a counter on it, so that even if they have removal for the Socialite, we still get some value left behind in the form of a +1/+1 counter, and that's always good. But having 4 Socialites and 4 Barons, which are 8 Lords, 8 Anthem effects, for at most 2 mana, sometimes less in the Baron's case because of Convoke, is kind of insane. Like, that's what helps make this deck just be so utterly, insanely aggressive. We've also got 4 Bloodtithe Harvester. Now, this is a way for us to fit removal into the deck while still having it in the form of vampires. 3/2 vampire for 2 mana. This is not a new card. Everyone already knows this card is amazing, but it gives us a blood token when we put it down. And then we can sack it to give a creature -X/-X, where X is twice the number of blood tokens we have. So in addition to the Epicure, this is pretty good removal. And then we've also got Dusk Legion Duelist, a 2/2 Vigilance creature for 2. It is white, but that's going to be really easy for us to handle, and I'll get to why in just a bit. And if we play it after we swing with a Socialite, it'll come into play with a counter because of the Socialite's ability, and be a 3/3 Vigilance right off the bat and draw us a card right off the bat. So it's a really good combo with the Socialite, but there's some other cards that it's even better with that we'll get to in just a moment. So we've already talked about the Markov Baron in the 3-drop slot, although most of the time it's not coming down for that full 3 mana. We've also got 4 Voldaren Thrillseeker, and this guy's a little bit more expensive than I would normally want for this deck, but there's a really good reason we're running this, and there's a really good reason we're running all 4. So 1/1, backup 2 for 3. So when it enters the battlefield, we get to put 2 counters on whatever we want. It is a vampire, so it's going to get all of our vampire buffs, and then it has the ability to sack it to deal damage equal to its power to any target, and it gives that ability to whatever it backs up. which is nice, but all of that is kind of gravy. The fact that this can come down under an Anthem effect from Socialite or Baron and itself be a bigger vampire right off the bat, maybe a 2/2, maybe even a 3/3, that can just sack itself to do more than just the 1 damage it's intended to do, while putting the counters elsewhere, is really, really nice. But the big reason all of this matters, the most important card, Agatha's Soul Cauldron. 2 mana legendary artifact. We may spend mana as though it's mana of any color to activate abilities of creatures. Creatures with +1/+1 counters get all of the abilities of all creature cards exiled with the Soul Cauldron. And then we can exile a card from a graveyard. If it's a creature, we get to put a +1/+1 counter on target creature we control. So Agatha's Soul Cauldron is insane in this deck for a bunch of different reasons. Most notably is the Thrillseeker itself. We don't even really care if we get to play this or if we get to utilize it the way it's intended. A lot of times we can just discard this to a blood token to get it into the graveyard, exile it with a Soul Cauldron, and now all of our creatures with counters on them all have the Thrillseeker ability. Sometimes we can just end the game outright by just chucking all of our creatures that are left on the board just at our opponent's head in one fell swoop. It's only 1 mana for each activation, and we can just kill them outright. Or we can turn some of our creatures into removal if we're desperate. If maybe the opponent has a Shieldred or something like that, we can very easily buff up the team with the Baron, with the Socialite, what have you, and then just put a counter on it and chuck it with the Thrillseeker under the Soul Cauldron and just kill the Shelly and then swing in with the rest of the team. So this adds a lot of removal to the deck while also adding a backup win condition that a lot of times can push us through control and still get us the win, which is awesome. But the Cauldron doesn't stop there. It works so well with a lot of things. Just the fact that we can put +1/+1 counters on our creatures is awesome for the Duelist. We get to trigger the Duelist every turn and draw cards. We can also sometimes trigger the Duelist on our own turn with something like a Socialite, and then on our opponent's turn trigger it again with a Soul Cauldron at instant speed. So we can get 2 cards drawn per turn cycle, which is kind of nutty. It's also really good with the Harvester because we can exile the Harvester and put a counter on whatever we want. And now all of the creatures that we have counters on all have the Harvester ability. So all of our creatures with counters turn into removal, which is sick. Now, the reason we're running 4 Cutthroat Contenders rather than just a couple and going up to 4 Pit Fighters is because the Cutthroat Contender's ability is really powerful under the Soul Cauldron as well, especially in multiples. Pay 1 life, give +1 power until end of turn. We exile this with the Soul Cauldron. Now all of our creatures with counters get that ability. And if we exile a second one with the Soul Cauldron, now all of our creatures with counters actually get that ability twice. So we kind of get around that activate only once each turn stipulation. And we can actually then activate it twice for each creature because it's once per ability, because 2 different Cutthroat Contenders are exiled with the Soul Cauldron. So that's super powerful, especially in conjunction with, like, we buff up our creatures a couple times and then we fling them with the Thrillseeker. It can get completely out of hand and be pretty wild. So we want all 4 copies of Cutthroat Contender for that reason. We want all 4 copies of the Ichor Drinker because it gives us more value. Every single copy of this card is going to give us another chance to make an incubate token if it dies, so we want as many of these as possible. And we want all 4 copies of the Epicure because they give us blood tokens, which we're going to need to fuel our Harvester or to fuel our other creatures that turn into Harvesters with the Soul Cauldron. So it's really important that we have all 4 of those. So the Falkenrath Pit Fighter, that's why I was saying towards the beginning of the deck tech that there's only 2 of this, because even though it is one of the better vampires as a 2/1 for 1, its ability doesn't stack with the Soul Cauldron. It becomes a little bit redundant. So we can use the ability with the Soul Cauldron, which is really nice. If we exile this guy from the graveyard, all of our creatures now become Falkenrath Pit Fighters. They all have this ability where you can discard a card, sack a vampire, draw 2 cards, which is nice. But exiling additional copies of Pit Fighter doesn't give us any additional abilities or additional value in the same way that Cutthroat Contender does. So that's why I'm going with just 2 there and the 4 Cutthroat Contenders. I'd love to fit 4 of both, but we have some new cards that we had to jam into the deck and make work. And this was the card that could absolutely, out of everything you could kind of justify cutting, whereas most of the other stuff you can't really cut. You actually need max copies. So let's talk about the new cards. First of all, we've got 2 copies of Bartolomé del Presidio. I call him Mr. President. 2/1 legendary vampire knight for 2, so it is a vampire. And then you can sacrifice another creature or artifact to put a +1/+1 counter on Bartolomé. That is insane in this deck, because not only can we sacrifice our creatures if they get targeted with removal to get a little extra value off of them, but we can also sack a creature if we want to get it into the graveyard so that we can exile it with the Soul Cauldron. It gives us another sack ability without having to spend any mana, which is awesome. Also, this deck makes a lot of blood tokens. It also makes incubate tokens with the Ichor Drinkers, so it's very easy to have an abundance of artifacts that we can also sacrifice to Bartolomé. And on top of that, Bartolomé itself can be exiled from the graveyard with Agatha's Soul Cauldron to give all of our creatures with +1/+1 counters this Bartolomé ability to sack other things to put counters on it. And then it's like all of our creatures kind of become Arcbound Ravagers in a way, and it's kind of absurd and a little bit broken. So this card is awesome. I would want to have more, but it is legendary, and we do need a high threshold of 1-drops to make sure that we can get out that Markov Baron as early as possible. So I think I'm pretty good with just 2 here, like I said, with it being legendary. But this guy is super powerful. Even if you get him into the graveyard because of the Soul Cauldron, he's still super powerful. But the most powerful thing about this deck, and the whole reason it works, is because we now have 12 lands in Standard that can make mana of any color for vampires, because we have Cavern of Souls. When it enters, choose a creature type. You can tap to add a colorless, or you can add a mana of any color, but spend that only to cast a creature spell of the chosen type, and then that spell can't be countered. So not only does this help us push all of our vampires through counter spells and through control, but it gives us all of our Mardu color mana untapped. So it's basically a Mardu Triome, except untapped. And that's what makes this deck so powerful. We've also got Secluded Courtyard, which does the same thing. You name Vampire, gives you mana of whatever color you need for vampires. And then we've got Voldaren Estate, which by default gives you mana of any color for vampires, and can also be tapped to create blood tokens. And if we have 5 vampires on the field, it doesn't even cost any mana. We just tap the Voldaren Estate and make blood tokens, which is super good with things like Bartolomé that can sack the blood tokens, or Harvester, or if we turn everything into a Harvester with a Soul Cauldron and we're just cranking out blood tokens every turn, it can get really absurd. But absolutely the most powerful part about this deck is these 12 lands are all untapped Mardu Triomes. And that means this deck can effectively run like a monocolored aggro deck, because it doesn't have to have lands that come into play tapped. All of the lands come into play untapped. You don't have the normal restrictions of playing 3 colors, which is why 3-color aggro doesn't normally work. But in this case, we play it as if it's a monocolor deck, because all of these lands come into play untapped, even though they're giving us mana of all 3 colors. And that is more powerful than any other aspect of this deck, and it's the thing that's most often overlooked about it. So definitely don't underestimate that. It's the reason that we're not playing any red, black, or white cards that aren't vampires. The only non-vampire in the deck is the Agatha's Soul Cauldron, and that's colorless, so it doesn't matter if we have the right mana for it. But these lands will only make the colors we need for vampires, so it doesn't allow us to run things like Go for the Throat, or, you know, Kamano versus Kakazan, or some of the normal things you'd think you'd want to run. But what you get in exchange for not being able to run those things is an insanely fast deck that runs as fast as a monocolor deck, because all of the lands come into play untapped, but it allows you to play 3 colors. So it's just the best of both worlds, and it's insanely fast. And then even if they turtle up and manage to gain control of the board enough for you to not absolutely rip their face apart with aggro, you can just then put your Thrillseeker under your Soul Cauldron and just kill them with all your dudes anyway by throwing them at their face. So the fact that it's one of the fastest aggro decks, but then also has this very consistent way to kill your opponent even without the aggro, just makes this deck super insane in my opinion. Rounding out the lands, we have 4 Blackcleave Cliffs, because that gives us the mana we need the most, but it's going to come into play untapped on the turns where it matters. Once we get to later in the game, it doesn't really matter if a land's coming into play tapped anymore, because everything is so cheap in this deck. All that really matters is those first, 3 turns. We've got 1 Mirrex, because we can afford to add 1, even though our color requirements are pretty substantial. We can afford to add 1 here, and then we have a way of creating tokens. Tokens can be sacked to Bartolomé. They can have counters put on them to gain all the abilities of Agatha's Soul Cauldron. There's a lot of extra value we can get off these Mirrex tokens, so I think just having 1 of these is worth it. And then we've got just 1 Caves of Koilos, 1 Mountain, and 1 Takenuma, because they all come into play untapped. The Takenuma is my legendary land of choice out of the 3 options we have, because it mills cards and then gets us something back. And even just the act of milling those cards can sometimes help this deck out by putting stuff in the graveyard that we can exile with the Soul Cauldron. So we don't have a lot of room for multiple legendary lands, but if I'm going to pick one, I think Takenuma is the right one here. So this is the deck. The games were nuts. I know I say that about every deck, but I think we went like 10 games in a row without even getting a loss. It was kind of absurd. I mean, the deck loses sometimes, but I will go on record and say it's probably the most consistent aggro deck I've ever played, because it's got so much extra stuff built on top of it that normal aggro decks don't have, like 8 lifelink creatures to help you race mono red, and all of this late game potential with Thrillseeker and Soul Cauldron, and it's just crazy. I'm going to shut up and I'm going to let you see for yourself with the games. There's a bunch of them. We win games really quick, so we're going to go through them pretty quick, but without further ado, let's check out the games. 3 Thrillseekers? What? No. Get out of here. I'll keep this, though. Let me think. Turn 1, 1 drop. Turn 2, Mirrex, 1 drop, Baron. I think we actually put back Bartolomé. I shink. Well, it's now or never for the Duelist. That's the only thing that kind of changes my mind, because we don't have another white source right now. I don't want to take the chance that we don't get it. So we're just going to play the Duelist. It's going to slow us down a bit, but it's going to make sure we're not stuck with it in our hand forever. Swing 3. He'll be back in a little. I agree with you, Orange. Bob Ross and Mr. Rogers is like a 1-2 punch, man. We're gonna wipe the floor with this dude, my god. This deck is just so fast, it's unreal. Does he have a Sunfall this turn? No, he's just scooping. Okay. Turn 3 win with only 2 lands. If I get wiped, I just like stall until I get Cauldron and Thrillseeker, and then I just throw everything at their head, and then I win. That's usually what happens. Hello, Mother Goose. We want the Socialite down as our premier 2-drop, because we'll get a counter onto the Epicure, so that even if they kill the thing that we play on 2, we've got leftover value, and that's really important. Although, we can only do that if we actually hit for damage, and he's got a Harvester. We got a couple different options, though. We got a plan. We got a plan, guys. We're just going to play the Duelist. The Duelist, what's interesting about the Duelist is the Vigilance means we can swing with it. We can crack a blood token in the middle of combat, discard the Baron, play it for its madness cost, and use the Duelist to convoke it, even though the Duelist is swinging. It's like a trick on top of a trick on top of a trick. And it's nutty. That's fine. That is perfectly fine. I gotta think though. We're gonna do it like this. Daddy don't give a fuck. What's your Chandra gonna do now? Huh? We have 4 3/3s, and they're only gonna get bigger.
Give a toast? I'd love to.
That's fine. We don't need it. We're just gonna come at you. That's fine. That's fine. We got another one. Thank you. Thank you. Come again. It's another 11 damage coming at you. Alright, you've got Ojair. I get it. Vampire. You think? Da. Do it like this. And then we'll do it like this. And then we'll kill you. Okay. Game over. Insane. Okay, this is a really slow hand for us because no 1-drops. I think we try it. And we see how it goes. Because it's definitely not normal for us. We're going to try playing the Dusk Legion Duelist out, see how that works. Decided to draw a card. Maybe we can draw a 1-drop off of this. No dice, but we can convoke out the Baron and put a counter on it as well. That is strong. He's played 2 lands and drawn a card, and we have 10 power on the field, and I've already hit him for 3. Rusty. Rusty, rusty, rusty. I mean, he can block with Rusty. That's probably fine, though. We'll play Duelist and draw a card. Play the Harvester. Make sure we get a counter off that Socialite since we hit for damage. And then we just kill him next turn. Yeah. Goodbye. Which makes decks like this that are super fast able to do way more work, way quicker. Alright, we're gonna have to jam the Baron next turn, I think, and not attack. Yeah. Although if we did Harvester this turn, we could crack the blood token. Yeah, you know what? Let's do it like this. This sets us up to be able to do a Baron as a combat trick in the middle of combat next turn. I just think that's way better. We could maybe blow him out. Do it. Do it. Don't be a pussy. Do it. Now, not only do we get to draw a card for free and not even have to discard anything, but we get to play our Baron at instant speed. And kill the Thalia. Yay! Welcome to the rest of the year. Go ahead. Brutal Cathar the Baron. Do it. You know you want to. Come on. Just Brutal Cathar the Baron. Close enough. That's even better. I think. Can't really effectively swing very well, can we? Well, we kind of want to set up for a Soul Cauldron anyway, right? Let's just force him to trade. And then that gives us better attack next turn and sets us up with something that we can exile with the Soul Cauldron if we want to. Sanguine Evangelist, sure. Do what you must. Nothing? What? What kind of trickery is this? Alright, so next turn we just go ham, I guess. Why are you playing the Evangelist with Coppercoat Vanguard? Alright. So, we turn something into a 4/4 and fling it at the Knight Errant. Or I guess we could just use the Bloodtithe Harvester to kill the Knight Errant right now, right? Yeah, we'll just do that. Does give it Ward 1 though. Yeah, it's whatever. Alright, that puts you at 4. End the turn. You can still exile a creature to put a counter on something, and we just fling everything at you next turn. Just fling everything at you next turn. You're afraid of dying. You don't even realize. You don't even realize what's about to happen. You do not even realize. Yes. We got you.
You didn't have any clue what's about to happen to him?
Oh, not a chance in hell. Good night.
That's like, even if you manage to stabilize against the attack, like, then all I gotta do is stall a couple turns until I can set myself up to fling something at your face. And then it's over. Alright, we're gonna go Vampire. Start with the Pit Fighter. It's gonna be a bit slower. We don't have any of our 8 lords. Come on, oh, sure. Oh, I lied. We're gonna play the Socialite out, because even if they kill the Socialite, we get a counter left behind, we get some value. Anything else we play, we don't necessarily get that. I guess with the Harvester we get a blood token left behind, but the counter is definitely gonna be worth more. Honestly, we just race mono red. We don't worry about trading. Nothing. I assume he's gonna be holding up shock. Nope, Monstrous Rage. Vampire. Alright, we got blockers for days. We have lethal on the crackback. Sure. I think we will do this. Just to stall a little bit. Swing first. or Baron first? Alright, draw a card. And the turn. If he's got a lightning strike, he just kills us by connecting, so we have to block. If he had the lightning strike, he wouldn't have swung with that. I think we're okay. He would have swung with both if he had it. Adversary, sure. Pretty sure we got him here. At the very least, we do 8 and he loses both creatures. You're out of your mind. What are you doing? We still could have sacked it and flung it at him for 5. Keep 7. This looks decent. We'll lead with the Cliffs. Play an Ichor Drinker. Vampire. Swing and Socialite. We're already off to a crazy start. Like, being on the play is just too good in this deck. Just too good in this deck. Draw a card. And we'll play a Pit Fighter, get another counter. Welcome to hell. This is where we get a little different with it, since they want to double or triple block some stuff. We play an Epicure, and then we play the Socialite to give everything a counter before combat. Then, we play the Markov Baron. Because we only have to tap down one of the creatures we were gonna attack with. It's gonna get blocked anyway, right? So we should probably gain the life. Comes in with 2 counters. Now by making sure one of the attackers has menace, we make sure at least one of these is getting through. Alright, goes to 4, and he doesn't have Sunfall mana yet. And nobody's playing 4-drop sweepers, so I think that's going to change once this deck catches on. That's the one big thing I think is really going to change in the meta. I think Sunfall is going to take a back seat because this shit isn't going to pass. Oh, hey, we can do it again. Yeah, we'll just do that. We'll just do that. We hit for 10 no matter what, and wipe your entire board. I mean, you might have a Sunfall next turn, so it might not be perfect, but my god. My god. Oh, it's a tapped land. No Sunfall. Good game. This is too slow. We gotta mulligan it. We can keep this. It's okay. We're gonna toss back the Thrillseeker for now. I'll probably try it at some point, but I don't think it's gonna end up sticking. I think it's just too slow. If the bats counted as vampires, I think it would be an auto include. But them just being 1/1 bats, I don't think it's worth what you get out of that for having to actually play it as a 3-drop. If it was a 2-drop, I could see doing it. If it was a 3-drop, but they were vampires, not bats, I could see doing it. But with it costing 3, and the tokens being bats, it's a little tricky. Well, it's got to be one or the other, right? So I guess we'll just do this, and then we'll do this, and we'll end the turn. At least next turn we'll get to crack the blood token and play the Baron before combat without having to tap any creatures, so that we could swing with both of them. Swing for 7. Although that does mean we wouldn't get a counter on the Baron, but that might not matter. Let's see what we draw. Do this, I guess. Oh god. Well, we're gonna swing. We're gonna wait on that other Baron. But we should be able to swing for 5, 9, 12, 15 next turn. Up the beanstalk is not gonna do it, friend. Courier's briefcase. I don't even think that's gonna do it. I think we don't win here, so I'm going to do this a little differently. I'm going to do it like this. do some shenanigans. I could have just played the damn thing. And hit for 11. But he would have still been alive at 2. Alright. Do you have the sweeper now? Gotta have the sweeper now, right? Trax is not going to do it. We kill you with the Thrillseeker. Confused. Why are you getting white out of your headquarters? Specifically? It's so weird. Hello. There's nothing to think about. You either sweep the board or you're dead. And even if you sweep the board, you might not be dead. Or you might still be dead. But you have to sweep the board. Oh. I guess that's something to think about. I gained some life and go up to 9, so yeah. I guess it does matter. I guess it does matter. You can't block the Baron because we just sack it in response and he gains no life. So, I think he's... I mean, you could do it like that. Goodbye. I can't be beat. I won't be beat. Vampire Epicure. Phoenix chick. You cannot race me. Force him to have to deal with the Harvester, or else the Harvester can deal with his biggest threats, I think. If we build up these blood tokens and then eventually just drop Bartolomé, he can't kill Bartolomé with his direct damage. We just sack blood tokens to keep it alive. That actually sounds like a really good idea, Finn. Night Tribal. I mean, we're winning the race. What are you doing? These people confuse the hell out of me, man. Why did it use my... Damn it! I needed the block mana! Now I'm not gonna win the race. I guess we gotta do it this way. I really wanted to swing with 4 power with the Harvester, but it used my Cavern. I gotta remember that. If you have a Cavern out, and you play a creature that's the Cavern, it's always going to use the Cavern first. It's always going to prioritize using it. Right, you got to kill the Markov Baron. But that's going to cut into your aggression. Scoundrel. It pains me to see a deck this boring. It literally pains me. Doop. Guess we play him while we can. And we swing with all the boys. And nothing can harm us. End the turn. Dude, that happens to me all the time, Isaac. There's always the one dude at the fucking table who's just, like, got all of them lined up. Bartolomé del Presidio. I like him. I like him a lot. I don't know if I can justify putting more than one in, but I really want to. Even his ability, getting his ability onto another creature with Agatha's Soul Cauldron is nuts. This looks slow. Let's try it out. Start with Pit Fighter. Probably should have been the Epicure now that I think about it though. You got removal? You do. Sick. Alright. We are gonna wait on Bartolomé. I'm just gonna call him Mr. President. Like, he deserves to be called Mr. President. And that's what that's who he is now. He's just Mr. President. If anyone has a problem with that, I don't know what to tell you. He's Mr. President. I like this. Because we can still just trade the Thrillseeker for the adversary, get it in the yard for the Soul Cauldron, and that seems gross. Come on. Swing batter. You fucking right, I'm blocking. Vampire. Pass the turn. Alright, we probably want to get that Thrillseeker before he exiles it with something. But we are going to wait, because he could try to, like, I don't know, bring this out of the yard or something. Well, you've got no mana for either of them. You buffoon. You are a buffoon. for 2. End the turn. We're gonna hold up the ability to do the most shit we can. 'Cause who knows if we need to make Bartolomé bigger. Sure. What a girl wants, what a girl needs, whatever makes you happy sets you free. We would have to pump this twice, that seems fine to me. Pass to blockers. Blow up, pump twice. Alright, so we start by going like this. Then we use the Soul Cauldron to exile our opponent's adversary and put a counter here. And then we use this ability to sack a blood token and put another counter here. We probably could have just blocked the bigger spellbook vendor and sacked the last blood token, but we'll take what we can get at this point. Alright. My turn. Do we has the lethal? You're silly. We'll take it slow and steady. We'll end the turn. We can make a blood token with the estate if we use all of our mana, which would mean not tossing one of our dudes at his face. But if he tries to kill like an Ichor Drinker or something, we put a counter on it at instant speed with the Soul Cauldron, and then we fling it for 2 damage at something. That's what I'm thinking. Hello. Would you like to play a game? I think he's done playing. I don't think he likes our game very much. We could go counter. Fling for 2. Sack this. Get this to a 6/5. Fling for 6. Put him at 7. Man, what a tool. We'll take your spellbook vendor. Put a counter on the Duelist. Draw a card. Thank you. Let's dump that. End the turn. Like to hold up the ability to throw these guys at our opponent. Oh wait, we just throw them right now and kill them, right? Yeah, we just do that. I didn't even realize We have a Thrillseeker under there, and they both got counters, so... We could make a blood token. No, we need our mana to throw them. But we could sack this, get this up to 8 power, and then sack both and do 11 to his head. I believe in you, Isaac. I don't believe in Gabriel quitting on me, though. I do believe that Vampires is the best aggro deck in Standard, and I'm going to stand by that. It shouldn't exist. Rotation should have happened, but it didn't, and so it's here. Alright, we need to mulligan a 1-lander. This looks great. We'll keep it. Toss back the Pit Fighter. Lead with the Cliffs and the Pit Fighter since we're on the play. If we were on the draw, we'd probably lead with the Ichor Drinker to better protect against removal. Vampire, Ichor, Markov Baron. I mean, it happens. That's fine. He didn't play a land, so... We're just gonna go for it. A Fiend's Informant. So we can't swing with the Baron. Block what you want to block. I'm good with it. Alright, take 7, go to 15. All of this off 2 mana. Like, if we had drawn our 3rd land, oh god. Give me a 3rd land. Let me Thrillseeker and pile up counters on the Legion Duelist. That would be ridiculous. Can't even counterspell my creatures. Like, this is so gross. This is so stupid gross. How is this deck real? Yeah, that's... Alright. That's it. Keep 6. Put back a Dusk Legion Duelist. Alright, we'll start with the Cliffs. We'll play a Contender. Pass turn. Are you going to kill the Contender? No, you're going to glimpse the core. Alright, this is already looking like it's going to be too slow to stand a chance against us, to be completely honest. Alright, Vampire. Now, the question we need to ask ourselves is, do we want to play 2 1-drops or 1 2-drop? I think we want to get the 2-drop out. Because if we draw the Baron, we can play the 1-drops and just immediately use the 1-drops to convoke the Baron. But we can't really do that with a 2-drop. So I think it's better to hold on to the 1-drops. All things being the same, as long as we're getting the same amount of power onto the board, I think it's better to play the more expensive creature. Okay. There we go. That's what I'm talking about. So we'll go Ichor Drinker. Cutthroat Contender. Markov Baron. And swing 3. He'll probably kill the Baron here. But, I mean, we still have... That's the thing that makes the Baron so good. Like, we played out our full mana's worth of stuff, and then also played the Baron. So, like, if he kills the Baron, he didn't slow down our tempo, our normal tempo, and we got him to waste his mana and his removal spell. Now, if he doesn't have a removal spell to kill the Baron, it gets even worse for him. But the ceiling, or rather the floor there, is at the very least, we force him to use removal, to use the mana for the removal, the card for the removal, use up that real estate the same way he normally would, but we're still left with whatever mana we spent, like our full amount of mana worth of value on the field to keep just pushing in. It gets really gross. Do we want to kill the Bramble Familiar? Nah, all it does is let us get through for 1 extra point of damage. I don't think we care enough. Let's just do this. Oh, it's tier 1. I feel more confident that this is the best aggro deck in the entirety of Standard than I've ever felt about any deck I've ever made. Question now is, do we jam everything, or is he going to have a sweeper? That's my worry right now. I don't want to get too... I don't think he's going to have a sweeper though, right? This deck doesn't sweep. Doesn't even have white. Screw it. I don't know what he's trying to do. But it ain't gonna be sweep my board. Trying to save face for me? I'm trying to just, like, carve into my face, bro. I'm cutting off my nose to spite my face. This thing carried me to Mythic last season. It was wild. It just doesn't lose. I mean, sometimes it loses, but it's just so strong. It's so strong. If he blocks our biggest things, we still get through for 4 damage, so it really depends on what we draw here. That's not gonna do it. We need to crack a blood token and get rid of the Secluded Courtyard. But we need to decide if we're cracking the Bloodtithe Harvester first. Probably not, right? I don't think it makes sense. I got a plan. Oh, damn it. Wait. I'm a moron. My plan doesn't work anymore. We can't just throw everything at him, right? No, we can't. We'll have to wait another turn. Rough. Very rough. Man, bringing out the weird games. How is it not tier 1? It's better than mono red in every single way. Unless you think that no aggro deck is tier 1. I mean, I guess you could think that. If you think aggro in general is not tier 1. This is easily the best, most aggressive aggro deck, while also having other elements of other styles like mid-range and control built in for 0 opportunity cost. It's just a strictly better version of aggro. It's wild. There we go. Now we're getting there. Now we're getting there. Can't counter it. Try to draw a card here. Swing with the team. Block, block, block. 1, 2, 3, 4. I just really want Shieldred to die. I just really want Shieldred to die. I think we're just gonna attack all. Really needed another mana as well here. We could have easily won if we just had another mana on the field. But I can't keep waiting. I'm just losing life and he's gaining more life every turn, so I gotta force him into a position where he at least loses some stuff. And then try to finish the job next turn. I was contemplating holding back the Harvester, because if he blocks the 4/4 with Shieldred, the Harvester could kill Shieldred after combat. But I think I just need to go for it. It's also the longest game I've played with this deck all night. Alright, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. He didn't think we could pump, did he? That's lethal. Alright, he's dead. You forgot about the Cutthroat Contenders. This looks good. We can work with this. Yeah, this looks really good, actually. Contender on 1, swing, hit for 2, Socialite, put a counter on it. Turn 3, we swing, then play the Duelist, get a counter on the Duelist, draw a card. Probably play the second Contender as well. Put a counter on that as well. Yeah, this looks good. Kamano, that's fine. And what he's going to do here is he's going to underestimate my Cutthroat Contender, and I don't think he's going to kill it. Unless he, like, drops a Red Source and drops a Swift Spear, and then, like, wants to pump the Swift Spear and gets to kill the Contender. Maybe he'll do it then. But otherwise, I don't think he'll bother. Alright. Plays. Okay, so we can't swing with the Contender. That actually does slow us down considerably. We could just swing and, like, bluff him. But I don't like it. Let's just play the Socialite. He's clearly trying to be aggressive, so force him into a position where he has to decide to take time off of pressing the attack to deal with the Socialite if he wants to. And we've got another one in hand, so I'm gonna do it like this. Not willing to lose my Socialite. Let's see what else he's got. Braids. Alright. I'm okay with that. Alright, now that Cutthroat Contender can trade with the Harvester if I want to. We can keep the Duelist out to get more counters, to draw more cards. We do need to stop taking damage. So it's possible we might have to trade both these creatures away. If he swings with everything. But I don't think he'll swing with Braids. I think at most he'll swing with the Harvester. He might even just... I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, that's what I thought. Alright, so you hit us for 1 point of damage. Now, waste your removal spell. And half your turn. Thank you. We'll decline for now. Next time we might not. Let me think. I'd love to be able to swing through that Braids with the Dusk Legion Duelist. We could if we played the Soul Cauldron. But I don't know if that's worth it. So let's just try swinging with the Socialite. And we'll play another Socialite, put a counter on the Duelist, draw a card. Alright. Mana didn't line up for us super nicely. So we're a little behind, but I still think we can pull out this game. Honestly, we'll probably still keep the land if he sacks a land again this turn. I think we're in a position now where we can win the race. He's only got 3 cards left in his hand. We only need 1 Socialite to survive to get a counter on this Duelist, or maybe both to draw cards. Didn't sack anything. Wow. That's okay. I think he just... I think that's it, man. We'll just trade. I'm okay with that. Decline. We need to be able to play multiple things this turn. Alright, Duelist, draw a card. I mean, I guess we'll just Duelist, draw a card again. If we draw a land, we can play the Pit Fighter. These games have been so weird. Discard a card. Yes, we will discard Harvester. Pretty sure we just, like, pretty much win next turn, right? Ow. You shot me, you a-hole. Alright, I think we win. Thrillseeker. Smash for 5, smash for 6. Yeah, I'm pretty sure we win here. Just do it like this. Yeah. Good night. I mean, that was a win, but that was sloppy. That was... Alright. We should be able to start showing you what the deck does now. All the weird games are out of the way. Cliffs. We'll lead with Pit Fighter. We might use Ossification to get rid of it. That would slow us down and be kind of a bummer, but it is what it is. Nope. Spellbook Vendor. That's fine. That's more than fine. Another Cliffs. We're just gonna swing. Too slow? The deck's not too slow. You out of your mind? You must be off your rocker. You must be losing your mind. We could trade the Socialite for the Vendor, which I kind of like. So worst case scenario here, he double blocks. And we just get to trade the Socialite for the Vendor. Alright. Instead he got greedy. I'm okay with that. I like hiding the Epicure here because he doesn't think the Harvester can kill Adeline. But then next turn we drop the Epicure after the Harvester loses Summoning Sickness, and then we get the other blood token and then we can kill it. Although he's just going to eat it with the Cathar, so it's whatever. Still though, I like it. I like it a lot. I mean, we'll take some damage. That's fine. Alright. Here we go. You guys ready for this shit? You ready? Here we go. Crack the blood token. Discard Markov Baron mid-combat. Play it with Madness using the Convoke and tapping down the Epicure. Pit Fighter trades with Adeline. Other dudes get through for more damage. In fact, we'll pump up the Contender to do even more. And now we are winning the race. Yeah. Goodbye. Thanks so much for checking out my channel. I'd like to give a huge shout out to all of my patrons over at Patreon. Without you guys, this channel would not be possible, so honestly, thank you from the bottom of my heart for all of your contributions. If you haven't yet, like and subscribe. The more likes we get and the quicker we get them, the bigger this channel will grow and the faster it will grow. I'd love nothing more than this channel to become something very special for you guys, but it's entirely up to you how fast that happens. Also, if you'd like more deck text, that's somewhere over there. And if you'd like to see what else the channel's been up to lately, that's somewhere up that way. Also, subscribe, circle below, do all the things.